The scent of orange blossom and warm yeast hung in the air, thick and deliberate. Every breath tasted like intention. My bakery, Honey and Crumb, was finally open. 6 months. That was how long I had spent obsessing over every inch of this place. The reclaimed walnut counter that still smelled faintly of sawdust. The brushed brass light fixtures I hunted down from a closed hotel in Savannah. The low jazz vinyl humming softly from the speakers, curated song by song for this exact hour. I had built a sanctuary, not loud, not trendy, elegant in a way that did not beg for attention. And in the center of it all sat the best table in the room, the family table. It was dressed in crisp linen, set with my finest crystal glasses, and marked with a small ivory card that read, "Reserved." It was 8 p.m. The table was empty. My phone buzzed in the pocket of my apron. I smiled without thinking. Finally. An apology, maybe. Traffic on Interstate 95 was always unpredictable. Someone missed a turn. Someone was running late. I pulled the phone out. Instagram refreshed. My brother Caleb had just posted a story. He was holding a plastic cup of cheap beer, grinning like a man who had never closed a deal in his life. My parents were squeezed behind him in the frame, laughing too loudly. Martin and Elaine, my lifelong audience of selective pride. The background was unmistakable. A generic sports bar, neon signs, televisions screaming highlights, sticky floors. The caption read, "Real opportunities do not wear aprons. Big things coming soon." I stared at the screen. The contrast was sharp enough to draw blood. Here I was, standing in a room I had bled for. There they were, celebrating mediocrity under fluorescent lights. They were not late. They were not lost. They had chosen not to come. The realization did not arrive as sadness. It did not ache or sting. It landed with the clean, mechanical click of a lock turning. My eyes stayed dry. A baker learns early that excess moisture ruins a crust, and tonight required precision. I walked to the family table, lifted the reserved card, and snapped it cleanly in half. The sound was small. It still felt like a gunshot. I scanned the room and noticed a young couple hovering near the entrance, hands linked, eyes hopeful but unsure. I caught their gaze and waved them over. "This table is open," I said calmly. "Best seat in the house." They looked stunned, delighted. As they sat, I pulled out my phone one last time. I did not open Instagram. I opened my messages and typed one sentence to my father. "The table is open to paying customers. Do not bother coming." Then I put the phone on silent and went back to the kitchen. For the rest of the night, I did not think about them. I thought about dough hydration. I thought about oven temperature. I thought about the quiet smile that crosses a person's face when they take their first bite of a perfect croissant. That focus was something my family had never understood. They thought Honey and Crumb was a cute little hobby, something I did while Caleb was busy being a visionary. He was always ideating, always networking, always one meeting away from greatness. I was the reliable one. "Camille is so steady," my mother liked to say, as if steadiness was a consolation prize for being forgettable. They never saw the fire it took to be steady. They never saw the burns on my forearms, the flour that lived permanently in my lungs, the 15 years of 4 a.m., alarms and double shifts at commercial bakeries, so I could save every single dollar myself. I am Camille Hale, and that night, for the first time in my life, I stopped waiting for my family to see my worth. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. That was not unusual. My body had been trained by years of pre-dawn mixers and proofing schedules. Even on my first official day open, even after locking the doors close to midnight, my mind still snapped awake like I had forgotten something in the oven. The street outside Honey and Crumb was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own breathing. I unlocked the front door, stepped inside, and let the scent of yesterday settle around me. Butter, vanilla, a faint trace of espresso. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like a warning. I checked my phone and saw the damage I had refused to look at the night before. 19 missed calls, 14 texts, all from my father. I did not open them right away. I poured myself a black coffee and stood behind the counter, watching the crema swirl and disappear. I let the silence stretch. I let my heartbeat slow down until it matched the steady hum of the refrigerators. Then I read the first message. "Camille, stop being dramatic." The second, "We had to support Caleb. You know how important this is." The third, "Call me back. We need to talk about something serious." It was always something serious when they wanted something from me. My father never called to ask how I was holding up. My mother never texted to say she was proud. They did not check on me the way you check on a person who just poured their entire life into something fragile and new. They checked on my availability. My phone buzzed again. A call. Dad. I watched it ring until it stopped. Then it rang again. And again. I set the phone face down like it was a hot pan. The bell above the door chimed at 8:47 a.m. I did not need to look up to know who it was. My father had a way of entering rooms like he owned them. Heavy steps. No hesitation. No awareness of anyone else. Martin Hale walked into my bakery wearing a navy polo and khaki pants. The uniform he chose when he wanted to look like a businessman without doing business. He did not glance at the pastry case. He did not admire the space. He did not inhale the air like it mattered. He locked onto me. "Rough night," he said, leaning his elbow on my counter like it was his counter. "I saw the lights on late." "I was working," I said, wiping down the espresso machine. "That is what opening a business looks like." He let out a short laugh, the kind he used when he wanted to turn my effort into a joke. "Always with the attitude, Camille." I kept wiping. The metal shined under my cloth. I focused on the motion. Smooth, circular, controlled. He cleared his throat, like he was about to give a speech at a Rotary Club. "About last night. We did not mean to miss it." "You chose to miss it," I said. His jaw tightened. "Caleb had a huge opportunity. There were people there. Investors. It was important that we showed up for him." "During the playoffs," I said, flat and quiet. "At a sports bar." "It was strategic," he snapped. And there it was. The shift. The mask slipping. Caleb is building something big. An app that is going to revolutionize the gig economy. I did not react. I did not offer curiosity. I did not ask questions. I let him sit with my silence. He blinked once, irritated that I was not playing my old role. Then he leaned closer and dropped his voice like he was sharing insider information. "To get to the next level, he needs capital. Serious capital." He paused, waiting for me to do what I had always done. Waiting for me to ask how much. Waiting for me to open the invisible wallet that lived between us. I did not, so he said it himself. "We need you to invest $50,000. Femtio, null USD. Ground floor. Equity. You will be part of it." I stopped wiping. Slowly, like I was setting down something sharp. $50,000. That was not a number. That was 15 years of my life. That was countless mornings of cracked hands and aching shoulders. That was the overtime I took when my friends went on weekend trips. That was the vacations I skipped. That was the times I ate ramen in my apartment, so I could put money in a savings account no one else knew existed. My father watched me carefully, like a hunter watching an animal freeze. "It is basically a loan," he said quickly, smoothing it over. "But it is an investment in the family. We supported you when you were just playing with flour in the kitchen. Now it is your turn to support your brother." Playing. The word lit something cold behind my ribs. He said it like my work was cute, like my skill was decorative, like my sweat was a hobby he tolerated until it became profitable enough for him to claim. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I saw what was underneath the entitlement. Fear. Not fear of losing me. Fear of losing control. Because my bakery was not just a business. It was proof. Proof that I could build a life without their approval. Proof that I could be successful without Caleb being attached to it like a shiny logo. Proof that the story they told about our family was a lie. Caleb the genius. Camille the steady one. Martin and Elaine the proud parents of potential. My success broke that myth, so they were trying to drag me back into my old position. Safety net. Backup plan. Quiet little sister who fixed problems and never asked for thanks. I felt it with sudden clarity. This was not about helping Caleb. This was about keeping me small. "No," I said. My father frowned like he had misheard me. "Excuse me?" "No," I repeated, calm and crisp. "I am not investing. I am not lending. The bank is closed." His face darkened. The concerned father act fell away and the bully stepped forward. "You owe us," he said, voice rising. "We raised you. We fed you. We tolerated this little hobby. Do not be selfish." "Selfish," I repeated, and a laugh slipped out of me. It was not warm. It surprised both of us. Selfish is skipping your daughter's grand opening to drink beer with your son. Selfish is asking for $50,000 USD the morning after you humiliated me. His nostrils flared. "Watch your mouth." "I am done," I said, and the words felt like clean air. "Get out." He did not move. He planted his hands on the counter, leaning in, trying to make his body a threat the way it had been when I was a child. You cannot talk to me like that. I am your father. I stepped around the counter and faced him fully, close enough to see the tiny vein pulsing at his temple. And you are trespassing, I said. He scoffed, but it was thin. This is a family business. No, I said. This is my business. His eyes flicked over my face like he was searching for the old weakness, the guilt, the obedience, the part of me that would fold. He did not find it. I reached into my apron pocket and pulled out a small notebook. Not a prop, not a performance, my ledger. I opened it to the first page and held it between us. Let us talk about family support, I said. 2015. I asked you to co-sign a small business loan. You said no because your credit needed to stay available for Caleb's car. 2018. I needed help moving into my first commercial kitchen. You were busy helping Caleb move into his third office for a company that never launched. 2020. I asked to borrow $500 for a mixer. You laughed and told me to get a real job. I snapped the notebook closed. The only thing you contributed to Honey and Crumb, I said, was the motivation to never need you again. His mouth twisted. Stop keeping score. I am not keeping score, I said, and my voice dropped into something dangerously even. I am checking the receipts. And you are overdrawn. He stared at me like I had slapped him. I took a slow breath. I let the moment settle, heavy and final. Listen carefully, I said. Access to my life is not a birthright. It is a privilege. You do not get to sit at my table for free anymore. You have not paid the rent in respect for decades. I walked to the door, opened it, and held it wide. Leave, I said. Right now. He hesitated, searching for one last hook, one last cruel line to lodge in me. But my face was a wall. He stepped outside, muttering under his breath, and when the door shut behind him, I locked it. The click was soft. It still felt like a gunshot. I flipped the sign to closed, even though it was morning. Not because I was afraid of losing customers, because I finally understood something that changed the air in my lungs. Men like my father did not walk away. They retaliated, and if Caleb was desperate enough to ask for $50,000 USD, he was desperate enough to do worse than ask. I stood in the quiet bakery, surrounded by the tools of my life, and I made myself a promise. This time, I would be ready. The retaliation came faster than I expected. 2 days later, Honey and Crumb was alive in the way only a morning bakery can be. The espresso machine hissed like a steady heartbeat. Suits grabbed coffee to go. College students lingered over croissants they pretended not to savor. The rhythm grounded me, until the door opened at 12:14 p.m. The air changed instantly. A man in a beige windbreaker stepped inside, clipboard tucked under his arm. He did not smile. He did not look at the pastry case. He scanned the room the way people do when they are looking for trouble. Health department, he said, flashing a badge. We received a complaint. The room went quiet. A woman froze mid-bite of a lemon tart. The espresso machine let out an exaggerated hiss, loud in the silence. I felt every eye flick toward me, searching for reassurance. I wiped my hands on my apron slowly. A complaint about what? I asked. Rodent infestation, he said, voice carrying all the way to the back tables. Specifically rats in the food preparation area. A couple near the window exchanged glances and stood up, abandoning half-eaten pastries. Humiliation flared hot in my chest, sharp and immediate. I swallowed it down. That is absolutely false, I said evenly. My kitchen is spotless. You are welcome to inspect it. He did. For 45 minutes, he tore my bakery apart. He checked every trap, empty. Every log, pristine. Every bin, seal, and drain, clean. My staff stood frozen, pale, and silent. I stayed where I was, arms crossed, watching him fail to find a single violation. Finally, he clicked his pen and exhaled. Well, Miss Hale, he said, almost disappointed. This is one of the cleanest kitchens I have seen all month. Looks like a false alarm. Who called it in, I asked. I cannot disclose that, he said, handing me a copy of the report. Then, quieter. But the caller claimed to be a concerned relative who had seen the infestation personally. A relative. I walked him to the door, forcing a smile for the customers who remained. Everything is fine, folks, I said. Just a routine inspection. When the door shut behind him, the smile dropped from my face. This was not about money anymore. This was scorched earth. They were willing to destroy my reputation, to burn down 15 years of work, just to force me back into my place. They wanted me desperate, ashamed, begging. I went straight to the back office and pulled up the security footage. I rewound to the previous afternoon. There it was. Caleb's car idling across the street for 20 minutes. Watching. Waiting. Counting customers he was trying to scare away. My hands trembled, not with fear, but with something colder. You do not mess with a baker's kitchen. That is a declaration of war. I picked up my phone and called the non-emergency police line. Filing a false report with a government agency was not a prank. It was a crime. And I was done playing family. That night, long after closing, there was a knock at the back door. It was tentative, hesitant, nothing like my father's aggressive pounding. I checked the security feed. It was Marissa, Caleb's fiancée. She looked like a ghost under the alley light, pale, shaking. I unlocked the door but did not open it all the way. "What do you want, Marissa?" "I need to show you something," she whispered. "Please." "I am scared." I let her in. She clutched her phone like it was the only solid thing left in her world. "There is no app," she said, words tumbling out. "There never was. Caleb is not building anything." "I know," I said quietly. She swallowed hard. "He owes money. A lot of money. The investors at the bar were not investors. They were bookies." My stomach dropped. "How much?" $80,000? Ottio, no lasti. That explained everything. She pulled up a voice memo and pressed play. Caleb's voice filled the kitchen, frantic. "She is not budging, Dad." The inspection did not scare her enough. My father answered, calm and chilling. "She will. We just need her signature." Page 12. Power of attorney. Liquidity rights. And then we liquidate. Ovens. Mixers. Sublease the space. The bakery is worth at least 100 grand in assets. But that destroys her business. "She will recover," my father scoffed. "She is just a baker." The recording ended. The silence that followed was suffocating. They were not trying to take my money. They were trying to butcher my life's work and sell it for parts. The truth crystallized in that moment. Caleb was not the golden child. He was a parasite. He created nothing. He only consumed. I was the one with real value. The entire family myth existed to hide that fact. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Marissa touched her stomach. "Because I am pregnant, and I will not raise a child in a family that eats its own." She sent the file to my phone. "Do whatever you have to do," she said. "Burn it down." When she left, I played the recording again. "She is just a baker." I smiled at my reflection in the oven door. "You are right," I whispered. "And tomorrow, I am going to serve you exactly what you ordered." They came the next morning at exactly 10 a.m. Not 9:58, not 10:03, 10 sharp. My father taught us that punctuality was power. Arriving on time meant you were in control. Arriving early meant you were desperate. Arriving late meant you were sloppy. They arrived on time because they thought they were about to win. I unlocked the front door and let them in without a word. My father, Martin, walked first. Confident, smug, carrying a black leather briefcase that had never once contained anything of value. Caleb followed behind him, jittery, eyes already scanning the room. Not admiring, assessing the espresso machine, the ovens, the mixers. He was calculating resale. "We are here to help you clean this mess up," my father said, setting a thick stack of papers on the counter like he was placing a crown on my head. The inspection spooked people, but this partnership will stabilize things. Rebrand. Fresh start. Caleb slid a pen toward me. "Sign here," he said quickly. "And here. We will handle everything else." I picked up the pen. They both relaxed. That was the mistake. Instead of signing, I pressed a button on my phone. The bakery speakers crackled softly. Then Caleb's frantic voice filled the room, amplified, undeniable. "She is not budging, Dad." The inspection did not scare her enough. Caleb froze. My father's hand hovered mid-air. Then my father's voice followed, calm and surgical. Page 12. Power of attorney. Liquidity rights. The color drained from Caleb's face so fast it looked like someone had pulled a plug. "And then we liquidate," the recording continued. "Sell the ovens. Sell the mixers. Strip it for parts. She is just a baker." The words echoed off the tile and glass. No music. No customers. No escape. "You recorded us," my father whispered. "No," I said, setting the pen down carefully. "You recorded yourselves." Caleb's breathing went shallow. Fast. "I can explain," he said. "Camille, please, this is not what it sounds like." I reached under the counter and pulled out a manila envelope. "This is not a partnership agreement," I said. "Inside, you will find two things." I slid it across the counter. First, a restraining order. Both of you are barred from coming within 500 feet of this bakery or my home." My father's face twitched. "Second," I continued, "a copy of the police report I filed yesterday regarding the false health department complaint." "That was not me," he snapped. "It was," I said calmly. "And filing a false report is a misdemeanor. Conspiring to defraud a business owner using power of attorney is a felony." Caleb's knees buckled slightly. He grabbed the counter to steady himself. "You would send your own family to prison," my father hissed. "I am not sending anyone anywhere," I replied. "I am stepping out of the way while consequences arrive." Caleb dropped the pen. "Please," he said, voice cracking. "I just need time. I will pay it back. I swear." "You have been saying that your entire life," I said. I walked to the door and opened it wide. "Get out," I said. Now, for the first time, neither of them argued. They did not threaten. They did not insult me. They did not demand obedience. They ran. They fled like men who had just realized the ground beneath them was not solid, but a trapdoor. I locked the door behind them and leaned against it. My hands were steady. 1 month later, Honey and Crumb was fuller than it had ever been. Word travels fast when a place has integrity. The morning light poured through the windows, catching dust motes dancing in the air. The reserved sign was gone forever. Every table was open. Every seat was filled. I was boxing up a dozen croissants when I noticed it. A $20 bill on the counter. Under it, a folded napkin. The handwriting was precise, controlled. Integrity tastes better than anything. Beside it was a check, $2,500. A tip. I looked up, but the man was already gone. The city's most notorious food critic had come and left without a word. I glanced around the bakery, my lead baker laughing with a regular, my barista perfecting a latte heart, the hum of a place built on mutual respect. This was my family now. Not blood, not obligation, not guilt. Flour, sugar, trust. I did not lose a family. I gained my freedom. If you have ever had to build your own table because the people who raised you refused to give you a seat, share this story. You are not alone. 3 weeks after they ran out of my bakery like the building was on fire, my phone buzzed with a number I did not recognize. It was a detective from the county. His voice was neutral, professional, the kind of tone that does not care about family dynamics or childhood trauma. "Ms. Hale, we have reviewed the report you filed. We have also obtained the audio file you submitted and the supporting timeline from your security footage. We are moving forward." I did not ask what that meant. I already knew. You do not file a false complaint with a government agency and then show up 2 days later with paperwork designed to strip a business for parts. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a pattern. 2 days after that call, my mother showed up alone. Elaine did not come through the front door. She slipped in through the side entrance like a woman trying not to be seen. Her hair was perfect, her lipstick intact, but her hands were shaking. She stood near the pastry case and did not look at the food. She looked at me like she was trying to memorize my face, as if she had finally realized I was a stranger. "Camille," she said softly, "can we talk?" I did not move from behind the counter. "You can speak," I replied. "I will decide if it counts as talking." Her throat bobbed. "Your father is furious. Caleb is spiraling. He says you ruined his life." I stared at her. The audacity still managed to surprise me. "Caleb ruined his life," I said. I just refused to let him use mine as a spare. She flinched, like the truth had physical weight. "Those people he owes," she whispered, leaning in, voice cracking. "They came to the house. They were not polite. They were not patient. Your father tried to handle it, but he cannot. He is not as powerful as he thinks." So that was it. They were not here for reconciliation. They were here because the bill had arrived, and for the first time, it was addressed to them. Elaine swallowed hard. "We need help." I looked around my bakery, my staff moving quietly in the background, customers laughing at a corner table, the steady pulse of the place I built without them. Then I looked back at my mother. "No," I said. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a split second, she looked like the version of herself I used to chase. The version that might have hugged me if I had been a different child. A shinier child. A child who made her look good. "You cannot do this," she whispered. "We are your family." I breathed in slowly. "Family does not mean you get unlimited access to me," I said. "Family does not mean you get to sabotage my livelihood and then call it love. Family does not mean I pay the debt for the child you raised to believe consequences were optional." Elaine shook her head, desperate. Your father says you will regret this. I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice so it landed clean. I already regretted it, I said. For 15 years, regretted every check I wrote, every time I stayed quiet, every time I let you treat my work like it was nothing. I am not doing that anymore. She stared at me, stunned by the simplicity of the boundary. Then, outside, I heard it. Sirens. Not close enough to shake the windows. Close enough to be real. Elaine's face drained. She backed away like she had been burned. You called them, she whispered. I did not, I said. You did. She stood there one more second, trembling, then turned and hurried out the side door without another word. Later that afternoon, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. A single line. You are dead to us. I stared at it, waiting for the familiar pain to bloom. It did not, because the truth was, they had made me dead to them a long time ago. They just never said it out loud until I stopped being useful. I blocked the number and slid my phone back into my apron pocket. Then I turned to my ovens. I checked my proofing schedule. I adjusted the temperature. I dusted flour onto the table like a clean, white boundary line. Outside, people came and went. They sat at tables that were never reserved for blood anymore, only for respect. And that night, when I locked the doors, the silence did not feel lonely. It felt earned. So tell me, was I too cruel for refusing to save them after everything they tried to do to me? Or was that the moment a scapegoat finally stopped feeding the myth that was killing her?